Hey there, 8th graders. Welcome to today's lesson. I am so excited to be your guide today because we are going to learn exactly how to construct an argument so powerful, so sturdy, and so crystal clear that your readers literally cannot ignore it. Whether you're writing an essay for class, prepping for a debate, or honestly just trying to convince your parents to let you stay up a little later on a Friday, mastering the art of the argument is an absolutely essential life skill. Now, there's this really profound truth in Proverbs that says, "The first to plead his case seems right, until another comes and examines him." And wow, doesn't that just capture human nature perfectly? Everyone sounds totally right at first when they're just stating their own opinion. But what happens when someone else comes along and actually examines that claim? Will it stand up to the test? Well, that is exactly why we have to learn how to rigorously test and prove our claims. We want to be absolutely ready for that examination. So here's our roadmap for today. We're going to explore the power of proof, break down the core components of an argument using a building metaphor, look at how to choose credible evidence, connect it all with reasoning, check out some real-world examples, and finally, see how this all connects to being a godly learner. Let's jump right in. Section 1, the power of proof. Anyone can just throw a claim out there. You could say, middle schoolers should get paid to go to school, which, yeah, sounds awesome, right? But without proof, it's really just a fragile opinion based on your feelings. An actual argument, on the other hand, earns the reader's trust because it's firmly supported by facts, examples, and expert opinions. You aren't just asking people to take your word for it out of nowhere, you're actually showing them the proof. And guys, that is how you win trust. All right, section 2, bricks and mortar. So, how do we actually build this proof? Well, it works exactly like constructing a strong brick wall. First up, you need your bricks. In writing, your evidence literally acts as the heavy, solid bricks of your essay. This includes your raw data, the hard facts, the statistics, and those expert quotes you use to back up your claim. Bricks provide the raw material that makes your argument sturdy and real. You can't build a house out of thin air, and you definitely cannot build an essay out of just your own opinions. You need solid bricks of evidence. But hold on. Imagine just stacking a bunch of loose bricks on top of each other. A strong wind comes along and boom, what happens? The whole wall topples over. A pile of bricks is just a pile without the mortar. And in your writing, that mortar is your reasoning. Reasoning is the critical element that connects the dots and shows your reader exactly how the evidence supports your claim. It's your own voice explaining the why. You absolutely need both the heavy facts and the sticky reasoning to build a wall that's actually going to last. Moving on to section 3, choosing credible evidence. So, where do we find the most credible, sturdy bricks for our wall? As an 8th grade writer, you actually have this fantastic toolkit of evidence to pull from. You can use hard facts and statistics, like, say, percentages from a science journal. You can use specific historical examples. You can use expert quotes, maybe the words of a doctor or a historian. And you can even use well-documented real-life experiences. Having this kind of variety makes it super easy to support whatever case you happen to be building. But here is the absolute game changer. You must select credible sources. Because if your evidence isn't trustworthy and accurate, your whole argument is going to crumble under pressure. Imagine building your brick wall using bricks made of crumbly dry mud instead of fired clay. A random post on social media by someone who isn't even an expert, yeah, that's a crumbly brick. But a published article from a university or a known scientific organization, now that is a solid fired clay brick. Always ask yourself, is this source actually reliable? Section 4, connecting with reasoning. Like I mentioned a minute ago, reasoning is your mortar. It's the why. You can't ever just assume the facts are going to speak for themselves. You have to actively use your reasoning to explain exactly why this specific evidence proves your overarching point. Think about it. If you drop a statistic into your essay and then just immediately move on to the next paragraph, your reader is going to be totally confused. They'll think, okay, that's a neat fact, I guess, but why are you telling me this? Your reasoning is where you step in and say, this fact proves my claim because. Never leave your reader guessing. Section 5, real-world argument examples. Let's see what this looks like in action. Okay, check out this first example. I'm sure you'll all love this one. The claim that students should have absolutely no weekend homework. Now, our evidence, the heavy brick, is that studies show homework stress increases student burnout. Next, we apply the reasoning mortar. We connect that study directly back to our claim by explaining that free weekends let students rest, allowing them to return to school refreshed and ultimately improving their academic performance. Do you see how the mortar perfectly cements that brick right to the claim? Let's look at a second example. Say your claim is that school cafeterias should serve way more fresh fruits and vegetables. Here, we're using an expert quote as our brick. A nutritionist from the American Heart Association recommends at least 5 servings daily for children. Beautiful, solid brick. Now for our reasoning. Providing these healthy options in school cafeterias helps students actually meet those guidelines, which promotes long-term health. The reasoning explains exactly why the cafeteria is responsible for helping meet that doctor's standard.
All right, one last example. What if your claim is that school field trips improve learning? Our real-life evidence, the brick, is that students who visited museums actually scored higher on history tests. That's a great fact, but we still need to explain why that happened. Our reasoning cleanly cements this by explaining that engaging, hands-on field trips help students actually retain and remember what they learn in the classroom. Boom, you've proven the point perfectly. Which brings us to our final section, Section 6, the godly learner.
We've covered a ton of great academic skills today. But before we finish up, this is so incredibly important, guys. Let's look at this powerful verse from Romans chapter 8. It says, "For to be carnally minded is death, but to be spiritually minded is life and peace." This verse teaches us something so vital. An intellect without a spiritual anchor can actually hurt us. If you're only focusing on worldly things, being carnally minded, it just leads to trouble. But keeping your mind centered on God, being spiritually minded, that brings true life and peace. You see, HeroesMart Academy intertwines biblical morality with education for a very specific reason. Because education without morality can actually hurt. Knowledge and intelligence, they should help you make wise, God-honoring choices, rather than just simply making you more capable of arguing for the wrong things. Just like Romans 8 teaches us, keeping the mind spiritually minded leads to life and peace. So I highly, highly encourage you to pursue academic excellence. Learn to build those brilliant arguments, but always, always keep your mind centered on God, on truth, on wisdom, and on making righteous choices. And that brings us to your mission for this week. As you find facts and write your reasoning, I want you to ask yourself, what credible fact are you going to use to support your very next claim? And exactly how will your reasoning build a wise, sturdy argument around it? Remember, an argument isn't just a school assignment to get a grade. It's a tool to advocate for what is right in the real world. Will the walls you build stand for truth? Choose your bricks carefully and go build something that lasts. I'll see you in the next lesson.